Good morning, everyone. As a member of the Urban Places group here at Stantec, we're charged with finding unique solutions to urban problems. And specifically, we're a cross-disciplinary group around the company looking for these opportunities. What I'm going to talk to you this morning is Brooklyn Village. Brooklyn Village is a 2.1 million square foot, 17-acre redevelopment in Center City, Charlotte. But the story really doesn't stop there. It's a much more significant project. It's a transformative project, not just for our local office in Charlotte. It's not a transformative project, not just for the city of Charlotte, but also for Stantec as a whole. Ultimately, this project is, at its groundswell, it's about incubating projects from the very beginning. As urban planners, we're at the forefront of opportunities that we have for the rest of the Stantec community. It's about working together. We've talked quite a bit about how we bring all these resources to bear to create great projects. And it's about creating smart and equitable cities, something that we have to pay a lot more attention to going forward. It starts, however, with Brooklyn. In the Brooklyn neighborhood in Charlotte in the 1950s was a thriving black community full of politicians and doctors and dentists and businessmen. It was an area that was really important and critical to the economic vitality of the city. But as with many places, in the 1960s and 70s, through urban renewal, we leveled it. We moved thousands of people out of their homes. We removed 14 churches and all of the businesses that were there. And we replaced it with what we sort of affectionately refer to as a government slum. Surface parking, bad government buildings. And so everything that you see on this image today actually was formerly Brooklyn Village. We removed all the streets and all the infrastructure and replaced it with super blocks. Well, the county understood and the city understood that there was a better opportunity for this going forward. As the city is progressing down into this area, the area that you see this noted as Stonewall Corridor, there's $2.4 billion worth of development occurring in that corridor today. And so it's moving into the Brooklyn Village neighborhood. And so we saw that as a great opportunity for Stantec to step forward. And it really started with the opportunity with the county RFP. As many of these do, we were very interested. We really wanted to be a part of it as urban planners. It's really important to us here in Charlotte as sort of opening the office and really being a bigger part of the community and playing a role in advancing that. And so we found great opportunities in some of the local developers who showed interest, but they weren't large enough to take on the project. We knew one of them really well, and he shared a lot of our common views and a common passion for this project. But he wasn't large enough. So we used our network to try to find another partner for him to try to make this project a reality. We continued to look, but ultimately we weren't able to bring something to bear to make it through the RFQ process. But he threw something together quickly at the last minute, included us on an org chart, and somehow managed to make it through. At that point, he gave us a call and said, "We made it through. Let's see how we can make this a viable project." And so at that point, we started to talk to the greater resources within the larger company. Made a phone call to Jeffrey Simon, our project creation specialist up in Boston, and said, "Who are the resources we can bring to this project?" And he said, "You know what? I think I know the right people to be able to do that. Let's look around the larger community." And he was able to find Don Peebles. Don Peebles is, as one of the largest black real estate companies in the world, or in the United States, was really interested in this project. Actually, had scoped out Charlotte before, but didn't know about this opportunity. And when we brought him into the project, we saw a great opportunity to fix a lot of issues that were there. And what was created was a very unique partnership, unique to Stantec and unique to a lot of these. We're actually an equity partner in this project. And what that does is it guarantees us all of the design fees associated with this project, from surveying to culverts to architecture to planning and urban design and everything else in between. And so it allows us to have a seat at the table and advance it. And so our team, which is probably 20 to 25 people, over a Christmas holiday, put together a fantastic proposal. We made the pitch in front of the county commissioners. We won the project. The county commissioner said, "We think that you're the right people to do it, but before we're going to give you the project, we'd like for you to go through 14 public meetings over the next 2 months." We did that. And I will say that was actually one of the hardest things we did, because not only did we have to conduct 14 public meetings, we had to do it through racial riots that broke out in Charlotte at the same time. And so combining the history of this site with what was going on in the contemporary, we knew that we had to step up and do something radically different. Well, at the end of that process, we delivered to the county commissioners a 4-inch thick notebook full of all the public feedback. Jeffrey Simon masterfully negotiated the contract, and we are now on our way to making this project a reality. So we're very excited about it. One of the unique aspects about this project, it's not just a $700 million project in 17 acres of downtown Charlotte. Don Peebles had a really strong commitment to the economic opportunity. We are providing affordable housing. We are providing affordable retail opportunities. But he wanted to make sure that we guarantee economic opportunity to firms that didn't have the opportunity in the past in Charlotte. Charlotte doesn't have the sophistication that Boston or Philadelphia or New York or DC has in terms of having more firms available. So this is a stretch goal for us. We laid down this, and in fact, the next project that came through also laid down the same goal. 35% minority women in small business enterprise as part of this overall project. Very significant in the overall project. But we're not done. And in the spirit of, and one more thing, how do we continue to bring Stantec resources to bear to make this an even more exciting, a more viable project going forward? Well, we have to build 2,300 parking spaces, or so the market tells us. But in order to achieve that, all we have to do is actually look no further than the research that we're doing in autonomous vehicles and shared vehicles. And over a 10-year build-out, we know that the technology is going to help us shave the parking out of this project to make it a more viable project. So ultimately, this is a project where we have to start being passionate advocates for making a project a reality. We all know that. We all know how to incubate these great things. We know that we need to use the power of Stantec's network to achieve a goal. We know how to do that, but really branching out and being able to see all the great things, and the folks that are in this room and the folks that are outside doing all the wonderful things we can, we are in fact better together. And ultimately, we need to be passionate about creating smart, equitable cities. It's important for us to do that. It's necessary for us to do that. And we need to step out of our comfort zone in order to make these things happen, because it's critical to the success not only just of our cities, but as Stantec as a whole. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have a few minutes for questions for Craig.
Craig, thanks very much. I don't think those were your slides.
They were not in
so
fact my slides.
Very much grace under pressure in terms of how you delivered that. That was great. The first slides are obviously not your project.
They're wonderful. You didn't know that Charlotte was waterfront?
Yeah, so thank you for that. I did have a question about project creation and the work that that group does. It's really quite unique, and when you think about it from the perspective of partnering and helping developers, do you know any other firms that are doing this in terms of that type of work embedded within the sort of larger service offering?
That's a good question. There are some that are doing this. I mean, in some ways, design build is part of that. And we're sort of doing design build from a project creation standpoint. The firm that I was at previously, before joining Stantec, got involved with that. But I don't think that they did it well. And I think a lot of people a lot of architects and designers fall into projects because they fall in love with a project, but they don't know how to actually do a project and pull it together. And I think we've got folks that understand that side of it really well. And that enables us to reduce risk pretty dramatically.
Stannis?
Oh, yeah, great presentation. Thank you.
you.
Just a detailed question. You mentioned the 35% minority women small business goal. I'm not quite clear on what that refers to. Is that referring to the construction of the construction of the project, or is that referring to the makeup of the design team?
Everything. Don Peebles, as the principal developer for this project, set that goal, and he said, this goes for every dollar we spend in this project. So it's not just the design side. And I'll say that that's hard enough as it is in a place like Charlotte. We don't have the embedded resources to do that. That's also in the construction side. But then as we flip over into as everything stabilizes, that's in the operations of his hotels. That's in the opportunities that are provided to the retailers and the ground floor spaces. that are there. So it is, in fact, soup to nuts and very aggressive.
Craig?
Good presentation and a lot of similarities in the types of work that we're doing these days. But to go back to it, I think it's an interesting concept because in Canada, as an American, MWBE is a big deal, but in Canada it isn't. Do you have any advice to people in markets that don't have these requirements? So like building a business case to have minority business companies be part of this process?
Well, the reality is, throughout North America, we're increasingly becoming a minority-majority community. And so the necessity for us to reflect that as a company and the work that we do as front-facing is going to be increasingly important. And so we need to be very proactive about it. We can't just wait, but we need to start fostering that leadership today, both within our company and within our communities, because the reality is, in Charlotte was recently ranked as the 99th out of 100 cities for economic opportunity and economic mobility. So if you're born poor in Charlotte, the opportunity for you to move up class is really low. And that's, unfortunately, I don't want to overstate the issue, but that's what revolutions are made of. When we don't deal with those issues, they will simmer and stir until ultimately they sort of erupt. And we've seen that in a lot of racial elements. St. Louis was another example recently. They've been going through that for years. We've got to deal with these issues head on.
Great presentation and really exciting project. Thank you for sharing.
I'm looking forward to showing you the real pictures as well.
I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit more about the conversations and process for reducing the parking minimums based on some of the autonomous vehicle expertise that was brought to the project.
Yeah, and that's sort of a work in progress for us. But in addition to, we're just out of walking distance of a light rail station. And so we really want to kind of limit, it's that first mile, last mile opportunity for us. So we're looking not just at autonomous vehicles, and the technology is not too far away, but just far enough away. But we're also looking at shared vehicles, at partnerships with transportation network companies, and then encouraging other elements into this project. Because we have the opportunity to do that, Stantec being the sort of sole designer, we can embed our expertise in that. So it's a soup to nuts opportunity for us.
One last short question? Or what I thought, okay. Great, thanks, Craig.
Great,
That's
thank
awesome.
you.